It is time for CNNs. What I want to do is go to your Google Drive, so drive.google.com, and then I want you to find your Imin and IST Keras notebook and go ahead and open that up. Okay, we're going to make some modifications on this so we can get relatively quickly into CNNs. So what I want you to do is do File, Save a Copy in Drive, and I want you to rename it Imin IST. How about CNN intro, since this is going to be our first CNN. And let's go through and make just a few changes. Okay, I want to get rid of df head. We don't really need it. We're going to keep in rows equals 2000 and in rows equals 250 for the sole purpose of when you first run a model, you want it on a small number of rows so that, if there are errors or things, they come up quickly instead of after a while. Okay, that looks good. Otherwise, go ahead and run it. Forget about df shape for now. We definitely want to keep our defining x and y. Okay, run that. We'll get rid of x shape for now, and note that we did get the square root value to figure out the dimensions. And I do want to move numpy. Go ahead and do that down with our little image output. So I do want to show you one other piece. We don't need to show how to get a random number here anymore. And look, these aren't originally stored like this. So if you do CMap, color map equals, I think it's grays. Try that. And then that's more what it looks like. Okay, so that's more how they were actually stored. Go down and get rid of value, counts. And for Keras, you can rename it CNN. Okay. And then underneath that first text cell, I want you to put a new coding cell. And this is where we're going to establish X and Y. Okay. So we're just going to call it regular X and Y, X test, Y test, Y and Y test. Recall that what we're doing here is we're reshaping Y to have one hot encoded outputs. Okay. We're standardizing X with the pixels. And there's one more, go ahead and run that, but there's one more piece involved. And you actually have to reshape X. So X does not have the right shape here. You may say, what is the shape of X? Well, you can just put an X.shape and we get 2000 by 784. This was great for one-dimensional kind of encoding, right? One like long, 784 pixels. But now we want to work in 2 dimensions. And in effect, you're supposed to really do 3 dimensions for CNNs. And so the third dimension is just 1, meaning it does not have any color depth. Okay, so how do we do this reshaping? Well, recall from our numerical visuals here, we actually did it here. We had to convert it to a NumPy array first. So let's now do that right here. Okay, and I'm even going to give this a subheader here. I want to call it setup X and Y because it does involve the reshaping. And I move this one down too. Okay, so I'll put a text over here too. We want, or I should say need, we need X to have a shape of 2000, comma, 28 by 28 by 1. Let's be clear about what this means, okay? 2000 is just number of rows, okay? You need that. 28 by 28 is the 2-dimensional representation, and then we do the by 1 to give it a 3rd-dimensional representation, which is useful because that's going to work then for other projects that you're going to do on other things. Okay, so now let's write the code to do that. Code it up if you can. So we're going to first say convert X to NumPy arrays. And that would be X equals np.array X. Machine learning input is actually NumPy arrays. And same with X test equals np.array X underscore test. Now we need to reshape it. And here's the thing. You see like what the 2000 is, and what is it? It's like the number of rows, right? Number of rows by, and it's going to be 28 by 28 by 1. Well, why do I put it like that? If we know for x it's 2000. Well, what about x test? Do you have to like do reshape again? Well, look, if you put in x equals x dot reshape, instead of the number of rows, you can just write x dot shape bracket 0, right? Because that gives you the 2000. But what's nice is that's going to work then for any number, excuse me, any number of rows. Like if we go back and reset x for the whole data set, you'd have to refix it. Okay, so you're not going to have to refix it. And similarly with x test, you don't have to look it up. I think it's worth checking these after we try this to see if they are in fact what we expect. So x test 0, and then also 28 by 28 by 1. Okay, let's run it, see if we get any errors. We do get an error. Go see what the error is here. And I'll be honest, this is not my first go around. Okay, I left off dot shape. Okay, so I need the dot shape. Try again. And sometimes you may wonder, well, if you try it again, does it like reshape? It should be fine. Let's just run it again. Okay, it worked. Now let's check it. Okay, so let's check. You know, you can print them to get them both in the same line. X dot shape. Maybe x. You don't have to put print again. Faster. X dot reshape. I'm sorry, x dot shape. But note, man, I'm off today, guys. Sorry. X test dot shape. And you can see we do have the correct number of shapes now. Now, you have to do that. Okay, if you don't do that, like me the first time, you're just going to get an error and you're like, why isn't this working? It's actually common that the input of x is not shaped properly. So here's a question. I want you to put the answer in the chat, and you know, your co-leads can jump in with a brief discussion. Why don't we reshape y? Okay, like why doesn't y have to be reshaped here, but x does? Okay, the data is ready. Next, we're going to build the CNNs.